episode of Zone Coverage. I'm Cody Schoeler here with Ryan Root, as always, ready to talk about Week 8 of the NFL season. But before we get into our picks and predictions, which you will hear toward the end of the episode, we are going to do a little news for what has been going on around the NFL. We are going to start with some news that will heavily impact the game tonight, which is Packers and Cardinals. But let me go over here. Devontae Adams, Allen Lazard, and Marquez Valdez-Scantling are all expected not to play in the game today. Adams is confirmed, I believe, same with Lazard, as they're on the COVID protocol, and then Valdez-Scantling has been on the IR, is not expected to be activated. So the Packers are going to be without a lot of top wide receiver options going into the game tonight against the undefeated Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, and it couldn't be a worse starting point for the Packers for a great Thursday night matchup, possibly, the best primetime game that we have so far this season. I mean, these are two big players in the NFC conference. So obviously this passing attack from the Packers is going to be a little bit rough. It's going to be kind of the Randall Cobb show as far as I'm concerned. As far as my fantasy team's concerned, that's what I decided to go with. So
Me too.
Yeah, so it's going to be rough for the Packers, and I've said it before, they're a very Devontae Adams, Devontae Adams reliant team. And, there's obviously a little bit of work going with Aaron Jones, Valdez-Scantling, but there's just not, there's not a lot of dynamic, offense at play here for Green Bay. But Arizona, this is this is their chance to really make an impact.
Yeah. Like you mentioned, Randall Cobb certainly is going to be expected to play a huge role. I'm looking at who else they have. They have Malik Taylor, Amari Rogers, Equanimous St. Brown, and Jawan Winfrey. Those are the 5 receivers they have active for tonight. And they've got Tunyon and some tight ends. So, Tunyon, this might be the game that he gets involved. I'm expecting big things from Aaron Jones. They use him in the receiving game a lot. So if you're an Aaron Jones guy, this will probably be a good week for you, hopefully from him. But, yeah, it's just, definitely not the ideal scenario to have this happen to them. But the Cardinals are not without their kind of injury woes, as J.J. Watt will not play tonight. He is possibly out for the year. I know I just saw an alert today saying he played 4 different injuries last week. There's a torn labrum, torn bicep, torn rotator cuff, and like a dislocated shoulder. So he's playing through a lot. Not playing tonight, might be out for the year, which is, a big blow for a Arizona defense that was playing really well and really, really benefiting from the leadership of a guy, 3-time defensive player of the year like J.J. Watt.
Fortunately for the Arizona Cardinals, J.J. Watt only had 1 sack on the season, less than 20 tackles. So it's not like he was, a huge part of this defense. It will be a blow to him, but not a huge blow. But losing a star player for any team that's off to a hot start is obviously going to be a huge obstacle for them to overcome. I've kind of said before, they've overcome all these different obstacles of, defying expectations, beating teams that were, quote unquote, better than them, and continuing to be undefeated. This is going to be, a considerable obstacle for them to overcome, playing without, obviously former defensive player of the year, J.J. Watt. But to me, I think this team will move along swimmingly, considering that Aaron Rodgers doesn't have a whole lot to throw to tonight. So I think the Cardinals will maintain their momentum for the most part.
No need to spoil our predictions for later. But I want to move on to the first domino, although a small one, to fall in the NFL trade deadline. Mark Ingram traded from the Texans to the Saints, back to the Saints. That was the team he was drafted to. So a little bit of a reunion there. Yeah, like I said, a little bit of a reunion as we go through some technical difficulties there with Mark Ingram in New Orleans. Like I said, when we were talking about Marlon Mack last week, there, you're back. I wasn't sure if it was you or if it was me, so I reloaded and came back in. But yeah, Mark Ingram back to New Orleans. Like I said, talking about Marlon Mack, they like to have a running back behind Kamara to kind of use it in a more traditional sense as they deploy Kamara in the receiving game so much. So I think Mark Ingram gives them that type of back. I don't see this really negatively impacting Kamara unless he gets some goal line touches taken away. But I think this is good for a New Orleans team that, is technically in a playoff spot in the NFC and is looking to compete with those, juggernauts at the top.
If anything, I'm happy that these two are reunited. It's like I saw on Twitter yesterday, these two running backs are just happy to be, playing with each other once again. And, I think Mark Ingram kind of understands his role coming in. This isn't going to be like his Baltimore Ravens days, right? And Alvin Kamara is obviously going to contend for that top 5 running back spot throughout the year. So I think Mark Ingram knows his role going in. And like you said, I don't think this negatively impacts the Saints whatsoever. If anything, This is a positive altogether. I can't remember what they gave up for him in the trade. Do you remember what it was? Of sorts.
Let me look that up. I mean, it had to have been some low draft pick.
Right.
Here, I've got it.
As long as it wasn't like a first round or something. Then
it definitely would not be a first round. Swap of late round picks. So yeah, I mean, it's just
so this really doesn't affect them too much, considering I don't think the Saints are really a playoff caliber team right now.
I mean, there's got to be 7 teams.
So
there's got to be 7 teams in the NFC, so they're in one of them.
There has to be 7, but we could get over half of them from one division. You never know. Yeah. I mean, the NFC East is pretty shut out with one. NFC North is pretty shut out with one. But the NFC West, you could get 3-4 teams from there alone. Who knows? Could they be that second team from the NFC South? There is a chance. I just don't see it happening for the Saints. But that being said, a swap with the Texans in the late round is really not going to affect them in the slightest, considering those rounds rarely work in teams' favors in terms of drafts, right? So
yeah, it's not anything big to give up.
They really don't even lose anything. They still keep the pick. They just pick a little later, most likely. So
it might be it's probably like they get a 7th and the Texans get like a 6 or something. So they're swapping rounds probably for sure. But yeah, nothing big. We've got a few more to go through, so we're gonna go a little rapid fire. Just give me your initial reaction as we kind of get through some of these not as pertinent news stories. First one being that Mike White will start this weekend for the Jets. The Jets had traded for Joe Flacco from the Eagles, as Zach Wilson is expected to be out around 2 to 4 weeks with that injury. I believe it's some sort of knee injury, PCL he's got going on.
MCL, Joe Flacco returning to New York. Love to see it because it's going to be
he's the backup.
He's going to be the backup in New York.
Yeah, Mike White's starting. Did you not listen to what I said?
No, I didn't. I'm sorry. That's Mike
White's the starter
for Joe Flacco. Wow.
I mean, Joe Flacco just got there, and he is, going back to the team.
He played for last year. I understand it's a new coaching staff.
But it's totally different now. So he might be the starter next week. Maybe they can get him up to speed. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. It's not a big deal.
Interesting. That's going to be an interesting game for New York. That's going to be a tough one for Jets fans to watch.
And then Tyrod Taylor and Michael Gallup both designated to return from the IR. Obviously, Taylor for the Texans that we mentioned, and then Gallup for the Cowboys. I believe Taylor has a chance to play this week. Gallup might be a little bit further out, but 2 of the very early season IR designations now scheduled to come back and help out their teams in ways.
Yeah, I think, Michael Gallup will help that Cowboys team quite a bit, but Tyrod Taylor, it doesn't matter if you got Tyrod Taylor, Aaron Rodgers, or Davis Mills on that team. It's just gonna be a rough go around. So, Texans fans can come together now, but
the Texans are going to be a lot scrappier with Tyrod Taylor. I mean, they played the Browns to 10 points. They beat the Jaguars, looked all right. So they certainly will have more upset potential with Taylor than they did Mills, who've just been, looking.
Well, they did start 1-0 with Taylor at the end of the day, right? So, I mean,
yeah, exactly.
There's a shot they could get him.
And then Baker Mayfield says he is not ruled out playing this Sunday. Nick Chubb is expected to play. So the Browns, which we talked about last week as having all these guys out, slowly but surely getting them back. I assume Baker Mayfield will play. I think he's helped out by the fact that last week, got a lot of time in between those games, although he did not play Thursday. I think he may have been able to play if it was a week of rest. So I expect Mayfield to play. And then, rolling with Chubb will be back and he'll have the full workload. We'll see what that means for Dearness Johnson.
I mean, even if Baker doesn't play, going against the Steelers team, I mean, they could win without Baker, but I hope he comes back just as close to 100% as possible for this team to keep progressing. But this is a real, this is a division rivalry and a half. So, yeah, I'm sure he's motivated to come back, and especially being a home game for them to take down the Steelers. Like, I'm sure he's doing everything he can to play, but I'd be, if I'm the Browns front office, I'd be more concerned about his health above all else.
And I mean, even if he plays, they can try to mitigate the, physical toll on him, especially getting Nick Chubb back, a lot of running, a lot of short passes, and extra protection. Jerry Jeudy will come back and play for the Broncos. He's been out for a few weeks since early in the season. He was up in the air whether he would play last week on that short week, but he will play this week. So the Broncos get, their young, hopeful star receiver back that was looking pretty good up until that injury.
Hopefully that makes their passing attack a little bit more impactful because, the defense can't really carry them the whole way. So it's good to see Jeudy back to play this week.
And then last one, Patrick Mahomes did clear the concussion protocol after taking that nasty hit. So he looks like he will be able to play on Monday against the Giants. So that's, good news for one of the, young stars of this game that he will not. Doesn't look like he'll have to miss extended time. It'll be the concussion bowl between Daniel Jones and Patrick Mahomes.
The concussion bowl. I like that. Hopefully they don't run them too hard because Kansas City is obviously, playing uphill at this point.
Yeah, hopefully they protect him and keep.
Yeah, so if they're up by like 17 with like 10 minutes to go, then just put Chad Henne in. Yeah. Or sorry, Anthony Gordon, I guess, is there as well. Chad Henne was the one that replaced him, right?
No, Chad Henne went in, I think, last week.
Okay, that's what I thought. So, if you're up by 2-3 scores, 10 minutes left in the game, just put Chad Henne in, and if it's a 1-score game, then have Patty finish it out. But I'd be that cautious with him.
Yeah, I mean, keep the Giants defender's knees out of his face mask, preferably, and you will certainly have a better week than they did. Yeah, they've got Chad Henne as a backup. That's it. So. So we can move on now to our Fantasy 5. If you have fantasy questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat. We will answer as much as we can and hopefully give the best advice that we can and not screw anybody over. You might want to listen to me a little more than Ryan since I beat him in our head-to-head matchup last week. Just want to throw that out there. But,
Thanks,
I mean, what was that? Oh,
thanks, Sam Darnold.
Yeah. But we can. I don't know if you've got a big start of the week guy you're looking at, or maybe a sit of the week. I mean, I can throw out the obvious one that we kind of hit on, but I think Randall Cobb's a good play if you were able to pick him up tonight. He's had some good games with Aaron Rodgers already, but throw in the fact that he's going to be the only the number one option, the only one with any kind of chemistry with Aaron Rodgers. I think and if they're playing from behind, he might get a lot. And then, like I mentioned, Aaron Jones, I think Aaron Jones is going to catch a lot of passes tonight. So, you sometimes you see some a lot of guys missing for a team, and that scares you away from them. Aaron Rodgers, if you got him, you're probably playing him unless you have another really good option. But I not too afraid of the Green Bay Packers tonight.
In terms of starts and sits, I'll start with the quarterback position here, and you can tell me what you think here. I'm starting Jalen Hurts if I got him. Him going up against who's he going against again? Detroit. I love Detroit. Don't get me wrong. They may very well finish this season without a win, and I'm still going to love this team. But Jalen Hurts, he's obviously just got that potential to get points with his feet and with his arms. But going against a Detroit defense in Detroit, he's projected 22.6 on my screen here, and I'd say you get a guaranteed 20 from him with a potential like 25 points from his play. Yeah, he doesn't have to throw a whole lot. His running will basically have this Detroit defense go in circles. And in terms of my sit for the week at quarterback, I'm honestly going to be sitting Herbert if I had him. I don't trust Herbert to go against New England facing, kind of a bumpy past 2 weeks, right? So, Belichick's obviously the best defensive coach in this league, and Herbert's not a rookie still. He's a second-year player, obviously. So I guess he's got that in his favor going up against Belichick. But, Herbert is obviously an enticing pick for most people, considering just how many different ways he can get points on the board. But I wouldn't trust him to go against a New England defense until he starts showing his promise again in the following weeks.
Yeah, I mean, Hurts hasn't scored less than 20 points in a game this year. A lot of that, obviously, is he's salvaging bad passing games with good rushing performances, getting into the end zone 5 times. And Detroit, I mean, certainly won't put up a lot of, struggle against him. I'm looking at some kind of deeper guys. I think Trevor Lawrence could be a sneaky play against the Seahawks. He's kind of starting to figure it out, throwing to his receivers a little bit more. Let me see what he has been doing recently. 15, 21, and 17 his last 3 games, including one of those matchups against a good Cincinnati Bengals team. So I think Trevor Lawrence might be able to come in and do some things against Seattle. And then Daniel Jones going against the Chiefs. Obviously, the Chiefs are a terrible defense, and maybe Daniel Jones can take advantage of that. The weapons may not be there for him, but I like those guys as kind of some deeper plays along with Carson Wentz, who I've been kind of beating the drum on recently in terms of my some quarterback guys there. But yeah, I mean, running backs, any thoughts on some of those guys?
Well, I just want to say on the Trevor Lawrence play, I think I was debating with that, considering, I have Trevor Lawrence in one of my leagues, and he'll get you some points, but he's gonna turn the ball over, at least a few times.
Maybe
going up against a Seattle defense, will he turn over the ball against them as well? I can't guarantee that, honestly, with how obviously abysmal.
I mean, he's only thrown 1 pick in the last 3 games.
And he's got a fumble issue to some degree as well. I mean, you're just never safe with Trevor Lawrence is the thing.
Yeah, no, for sure.
He's never going to be playing with a lead. He's not going to be playing, he's definitely going to be playing from behind and having some very forced throws. So, but going against Seattle, there's a potential there. That'd be a coin flip for me. You're talking about Saquon a little bit. I would sit Saquon still. His injury history has really just gotten to me in a real bad way now. I can trust to a degree Daniel Jones to get it done through the air against Kansas City, but Saquon, just with how inconsistent he's been this past, this entire season, and obviously last year with the season-ending injury, this is a very similar deal with Herbert. It's like I can't put my chips on Saquon Barkley until he starts having like those 16, 17 point outings week in, week out. I just can't. It's just not going to be. It's not going to be good for me to play Saquon if he's not going to get 10 points out there. Is the thing. So I would sit Saquon, but in terms of a start, I would never ever bench Derrick Henry, obviously, you're just always going to get points for him.
Yeah,
But a favorable matchup, Darrell Henderson is definitely.
That was my guy. That's what I was going to say.
I agree with that. And
Darrell Henderson's been on a roll, and they're playing against the Texans, which they should have more control of that game. Obviously, last week Henderson was a little disappointing because that Lions game was so weird, but the Rams should have control. They should be able to lean on Henderson in the ground game, and if he gets in the end zone, he's almost guaranteed double digits. So yeah, I like Henderson. It's a good call there.
And Joe Mixon too is enticing, even though it's been the Jamar Chase show for the most part. Going against the Jets though, like it's gonna be a 30-point plus outing on the scoreboard for the Bengals, right?
Yeah, it's kind of a similar thing.
Yeah, I trust Mixon to get like 14, 15 guaranteed, I'd say.
Similar thing with Henderson. They should be controlling the game, and that should allow for him to get involved. If I have another one to throw out, I'm going to give you a bit of a deeper play. I think Dearness Johnson might still have some value if Cleveland tries to go with those two running backs. We don't know what their plan is there, so that's a bit scary. That might be a next week thing. But David Johnson for Houston should get a lot more work this week with Mark Ingram gone. So, Texans playing from behind against the Rams, a lot of passing work. Jalen Ramsey's certainly going to, have his way with whatever Houston Texan wide receiver he chooses. So that could be an interesting matchup there. We can move on to wide receivers and tight ends. We'll group them. And if you've got any particular, affinities towards someone, I've got one name I can kind of throw out from the start if you need a little bit of time.
AJ Brown looks good to me, considering it's a division game between the Colts and the Titans. It's gonna be pretty competitive considering the the latest surge of the Colts. So I could see AJ Brown have a good outing, but I talked down on Kyle Pitts for a long time, but it seems he's finally started to find his footing a little bit.
First rookie tight end to have back-to-back 100-yard games, so that's something.
Like the first one ever, or the first one since?
Yeah, first one ever.
It's a new league. It's a new time.
Mm-hmm.
But
I'll throw out mine.
Not too much of the tight ends, though.
I like Chris Godwin. I think Antonio Brown's dealing with a bit of an injury. He's on crutches, and that is a interesting offense to keep note of when they're all healthy. Mike Evans obviously has a huge week, but that's with a lot of touchdowns. Godwin seems to be a pretty solid bet to rack up some yards, and with Antonio Brown out, he could slide into there. And then Rob Gronkowski's been, kind of forgotten about as he's been injured, but if he comes back, which it looks like he's practicing, he's always a threat to catch a touchdown. And then, going back to Jacksonville, I like Laviska Shenault. They're starting to, go towards him as their number one involved wide receiver. They're able to use him in a bunch of different ways, and I think he's got a big chance to, do something. And then Brandon Cooks, he's a guy I just traded for in one of my leagues, but if Tyrod Taylor comes back, him and Cooks kind of had something going. Obviously, just getting a better caliber quarterback in there will be good for him. They're going against the Rams, so we'll see if if Jalen Ramsey follows him around the whole game, it could be bad. But if he's able to get some non-Jalen Ramsey routes, I think that connection with Tyrod Taylor might come back. And then, Emmanuel Sanders doing pretty good in Buffalo as that number 2 wide receiver, and Diggs will draw Xavier Howard and kind of the number 1 corner, but Sanders might be able to feast on a number 2 that's not necessarily as good there.
I definitely, every time I play Mike Evans, I'm always like, oh, why doesn't he have so many points? Why doesn't he have so many points? Because Godwin is just taking all of the yards basic's and Mike Evans turning into that red zone threat, really.
Yeah, if he gets touchdowns, he'll be good, but without those, like we've talked about, the yards are there when you look back at his season. He gets 1,000 yards every year, but it's always like a consistent thing. Like or he has like a huge game and then he's got 2 games where he just kind of duds. So obviously you're playing him if he's got him, as he's one of the best receivers in the league. But I think, yeah, Godwin is certainly a good bet to get quite a few targets.
I mean, even on Mike Evans, his 3 touchdowns game, like I'm thinking like, oh my God, this guy's got to have like 35, 40 points. And I think he was in like the high 20s by the end of it, or in the low 30s, somewhere around there. But it was just because, he's just getting touchdowns really and not a ton of the yards. And that's where Godwin comes into play. But.
Yeah, I mean, he had 6 catches, 76 yards, 3 touchdowns, 28 points. And then last name I want to mention, Jamar Chase. He just goes off every week, and now they're playing the Jets. So, might be a lot of first. I
got him in one of my leagues. I'm excited.
Yeah, might be a lot of first half work. Who knows what the game will look like in the second half? But he is too good to be, obviously on a bench. But he could have another special week. We'll be doing this again next week. If you got fantasy questions, bring them to us in the chat anytime during the show. But we're going to move on to our predictions. I don't know if you have our record for how we did last week. I don't know if you have that in front of you. But
I don't, but I'm sure you won again. I think I've won like 2 weeks.
I know last week was a really good week for me. I think I missed, and I even got the Monday night game, and you went the Seahawks. So I had a really good week. I think I missed like 2. So I'm hoping to ride that again. But we can start with obviously tonight's matchup, Thursday Night Football, the Packers at the Cardinals. Arizona looking to go 8-0, and the Packers are looking to continue their streak. They're looking to match the Cardinals in a runoff. I think that'll make them 7 in a row. Because I don't believe they've had their bye. They haven't lost since week 1. So this is 15 straight wins between these two teams combined. So something's got to give tonight.
If I'm going with somebody, it astounds me that I'm looking at a point differential of 6.5 for Arizona on this screen, because I think if both of these teams were full force, this would be a real close game.
Like 2 or 3 probably, yeah.
I would say I would still say like Cardinals would be the favorite, but that 2 or 3, maybe
especially with them being at home.
Right.
But it'd be a lot closer if Davante Adams was playing. I think this.
If just Davante Adams was playing, this be like a 3 or 4 point difference.
Yeah.
But the injuries are really working in Arizona's favor tonight. Kyler Murray is going to play. He's going to play his game. He's going to go out there, run around, make some plays, not just pass it to DeAndre Hopkins. He's got Zach Ertz that he's been connecting with lately.
Oh, yeah. He throws it all over the place.
The Packers defense, they're not going to really know what hit him by the end of it, and they're probably going to give up, your 27, 30 points. But Aaron Rodgers, you're going to have to really be resourceful with your offense against Arizona. And who knows if this Arizona pass rush is going to get to him at least 2 or 3 times. So I would take the Cardinals in this. I think the injuries favor them, and that's going to be the story with this. Really, is that the injuries are favoring them, even though they have a season ending injury with J.J. Watt. I think Arizona takes this.
I have been the Packers supporter obviously on here, and I'm not going to let these injuries dissuade me from my pick. I was going to pick the Packers. And I'm going to stick with the Packers. They're a top 10 defense in terms of points allowed. I mean, they're actually a lot better defense than people think. They've got, a lot of good players on that defense. They've got a great corner in Jair Alexander. They've got guys that can get to the passer. They are, 8th fewest passing yards allowed. They're a little bit more susceptible on the run, in the run. But I mean, I think the defense, this is going to be a game that the defense wins, and the defense kind of shows out as a little bit better than people think. And, Aaron Rodgers, as much as, it sucks that he's got all his weapons out, I don't know if there's another quarterback that I would have faith in to play without his weapons as Aaron Rodgers. I mean, even, Tom Brady, I think is incredible, but we've seen him with not a lot of weapons on New England those last couple of years. He's not that type of player anymore. But Aaron Rodgers is the guy that can get it done with, I mean, you could give him, University of Wisconsin's wide receivers, and I think he could still get the job done. He's that type of guy. He makes everybody around him better. And so I think we're going to see, an interesting game. I think they'll cover. I think it'll be a close game. I like what Green Bay is going to be able to do, and I'm picking them to win because I made my mind up on this one like a week ago. I just think the Cardinals are going to drop games at some point. It's not crazy to be saying that, and so I think it's certainly one of the more tougher matchups that they have, and so I think they'll drop it. But I think it's just more of a Arizona plays. They've played a lot of good games. They've got through a lot. At some point, the other shoe is going to drop, and this could be it.
Next up, we have Carolina and Atlanta playing in Atlanta, I should say. The bye teams this week are the Raiders and the Ravens. I won't be talking about them. But, as opposed to the past 2 weeks, it's been like 6 each week. Right?
Yeah, four on the bye 2 weeks ago, 6 on the bye last week. So we're getting into a much more manageable bye week slate this week.
So Carolina and Atlanta.
I mean, you already know where I'm going.
And to be honest, I know where I'm going too.
I'm not picking Carolina. I don't pick Carolina.
I know you're not. I
don't think I picked them. Okay, because what they've lost 4 straight, and I don't think I picked them in any of those. I've just been firmly anti-Carolina.
There's still a little part of me that's staying attached to this Carolina team, considering they're going against Atlanta. Is the thing, but Atlanta's
hot.
That's the thing that's weird about this is that Atlanta's been playing really well as of late. They've won 3 of their last 4.
Yeah,
all of them not terrible teams, but Carolina isn't far off. So
Carolina's a terrible team.
This is at home for Atlanta, going against a Carolina team that not sure when they're going to win their next game. That being said, I think this will be Atlanta's victory. I will agree with you here because Carolina's just let me down these past 4 weeks, 5 weeks. So
I think Carolina is worth revisiting when McCaffrey gets back. Maybe he is, the spark of that team. But until then, and as long as Sam Darnold's still the quarterback, not going to believe in them unless it's against a very, very bad team.
Quarterback going forward, do you think? They think they'd be better?
No, because I think they'd figure out that they're running it all the time. But I think Teddy Bridgewater would be better. But I mean, Sam Darnold got benched at the end of last game. That is never good. PJ Walker is, there sitting behind him. He's I believe he was like an AAF MVP, if you remember that back in the day. I think it was AAF, either that or XFL, one of the two.
Right.
But I like what they've got going on there. So of course, no, I don't like what they've got going on there. I like what Atlanta's got going on. Before we move on, we've got a question in the chat. A few questions. Jalen Waddle or Devonta Smith rest of season? I would probably go Waddle. I really like Devonta Smith, but I just don't trust the Philadelphia passing offense, and I don't trust Jalen Hurts. And we've seen Jalen Waddle certainly be the most targeted receiver in Miami, and now that Tua came back and he looked all right, and they seem to have a little connection going on. So I'd probably go with Miami. And then he also asked Aaron Jones or Zeke rest of season. Will Zeke be a top 3? I like Zeke. He's there. They've got a commitment to that running game, and that offense is just dynamic. So I would go with him. Top 3, I don't know because there's a lot of good guys up there, but I think he'll definitely be a top 10, maybe it's hard to predict that because you don't know what everybody else is going to do, but I think he'll have a good enough rest of the season if healthy. You can weigh in on those two. Yeah,
I definitely like Zeke for the rest of the year. He could be like a top 6 running back when it's all said and done. Devonta Smith I'd like a little bit better than Waddle, considering I'm not a backer of Tua by any means. So I would put more faith in Jalen Hurts than I would Tua. But that the difference between those receivers is literally just the quarterbacks. They're both awesome receivers, but just the quarterback situation, I would prefer Devonta Smith. But so we'll talk about Miami at Buffalo for a 10 a.m. game on Halloween. When's the last time that we've had NFL games on Halloween? I feel like it's been a while. Or at least an NFL Sunday on Halloween.
Would it be like 7 years ago? I don't know how.
Right, yeah.
Maybe it's still a few leap years, I'm sure. But yeah, I can't necessarily remember it.
Buffalo being a 14-point favorite over the 1-6 Dolphins. This is a point differential I can get behind for a double-digit point differential I can get behind. Considering I know one of the double-digit, favorites last week was Arizona, and I was like, oh, there's no way like I could guarantee it'd be over 14 points, and that they won by like 21 or something like that.
It was like 17 spread. And I mean, what helps with this matchup is we've seen Buffalo blow Miami out of the water already this season. I mean, Buffalo I've talked about. I'm still not like, I think they're really good, but I think they're fairly untested, but they beat really bad teams, and Miami is a very bad team. So I think they'll handle this one pretty easily.
This is going to be a party in Orchard Park. I'll tell you what. Like, fans are just going to show up. You get to play a bottom-feeding team in not only the AFC but in your division. It's just going to be a good Halloween in Orchard Park. I'll tell you what. So I would take the Bills by a mile here. I'd say this. I would give it my lock, but it's a little too obvious, so I'll hold on to it. But
I want to bring up. We got another question in the chat from Justin. A trade? Would you accept this? Elijah Mitchell and Michael Carter. I'm assuming he just gave the last names, and give up DJ Moore, which would be for a flex spot. I would be interested in that if you've got two receivers better than DJ Moore, which it sounds like you do. Then taking the kind of 2-for-1 chance there. Elijah Mitchell, if he's the starting running back on the Niners going forward, that's a valuable position. And Michael Carter's, not great in that New York Jets offense, but I think starting running backs, there's only 32 of them. So I think they're pretty hot commodities. So, if you can give up DJ Moore and still feel confident about your receivers, I like the prospects of Elijah Mitchell going forward. He looked really good last week.
They're both a dice roll, but I think it's worth the risk if you're trading away a Carolina receiver at this point.
Yeah, exactly. We don't know what to expect from that. And
Mitchell could be interesting. Is what I'll say. Michael Carter, I won't put a ton of. I mean, don't the Jets have two Michael Carters if I remember correctly?
Yeah, they drafted two Michael Carters. They've got one on. They got a corner as well. But I mean, he's a starter, so that's worth something.
Not Michael Carter Williams from the NBA. I have to keep telling myself every time I see it.
But so I mean, those are some shots. I think Elijah Mitchell's got certainly a better chance to pan out, but Michael Carter can be a good flex play in the right week against a bad rushing defense, and maybe they try to take some pressure off a Mike White or a Joe Flacco by rolling with giving it to Carter a little bit more. But I think Mitchell makes that worth it. But we can move on to the next game. I'll let you.
We got San Fran and Chicago. San Fran going to Chi-Town.
Jimmy Garoppolo will be starting, so we don't get the
starting again. Oh my God!
We don't get the rookie. Well, Lance is injured. Lance is still injured. He wasn't even suited.
Crutches and go out there, man.
He wasn't even suited up last week. So, and even if it was Lance, that matchup of rookie quarterbacks has lost a little bit of luster.
Oh, I just totally forgot about that. This was so going to be like, the Trey Lance, Justin Fields.
Yeah, but we after seeing what Justin Fields and the Bears as a whole have been doing, not as interesting as we thought.
It still would have been months fun, ago. Like having two young quarterbacks. I mean, once we have Zach Wilson and Trevor Lawrence go against each other, we're gonna be watching that because that's just gonna be, it's gonna be like playing a game of battleship. It's gonna be like miss, hit, miss.
Yeah.
The 49ers at Chicago, though, something, I don't have a whole lot of faith in this 49ers team, but they're going against Chicago. I don't have a whole lot of faith in the Chicago team.
Any faith in Chicago.
But they're going against San Fran, right? These are both teams that, I think have upset potential, even though their respective wins over each other. This is like a strange matchup to me because I think if either of these teams win, it'd be an upset to some degree. It's weird. But
I mean, I think San Francisco, that game last week was just really weird. I think, Jimmy Garoppolo just couldn't get a grip on the ball, which is just tough. And so if it's not,
he's going to be playing in the Windy City, so it's not like it's going to be.
Chicago's not actually that windy. Fun fact.
But it's going to be cold. The weather's
not cold.
Particularly great. So
yeah, I mean, this dude, he went to, like, I guess it was East Carolina or so, but he was in New England for a while, so he's used to the cold. But I mean, San Francisco, I think, is one of those teams. They you don't know what you can get from them because they can compete with the Cardinals, especially, defense is pretty good. They've got certainly a lot of good players on that team on both sides of the ball. But Chicago is just up there in terms of teams that I just don't want to believe in at all. I like teams that are trending up more than, a team like that just seems like they can't figure anything out. They've got Allen Robinson and they can't even use him. Khalil Mack won't be playing in this game. Obviously, the Bears defense is pretty good, but I think, the 49ers offense will be able to do enough. Elijah Mitchell looked good. And I mean, we just saw the Tampa Bay Buccaneers just throttle them last week. And so I don't think they're going to be feeling good about themselves.
They're not going to be feeling good about themselves, but so you're going San Fran?
Yeah, I'm going San Fran. Go Chicago. I'm
going Chicago because
I will not pick Chicago.
I am a Jimmy G hater by all means.
Yeah. I won't be surprised if Chicago wins. Both these teams have the range to look pretty solid or to look really bad, but I have more faith in the talent on San Francisco than I do the talent in Chicago.
Alrighty. We have Pittsburgh at Cleveland.
Interesting matchup.
Yeah, this is going to be one of the best matchups of the weekend, other than, of course, tonight's game.
Cleveland 3.5 favorites at home, so a fairly close game. Teams usually get about 3.
I'm sure they're taking into account, Baker not playing with that spread.
Yeah.
Because Baker was playing, this should be like a 6-7 point favorite.
Maybe. I mean, they played the Broncos close. Obviously, that's without Baker, but I think they're taking into account either Baker not playing or Baker playing injured if he does play. And this just is not a fully healthy Browns team, but I mean, if you're a team that plays close with the Geno Smith-led Seahawks, it's hard for me to believe in you. So I'm gonna go with Cleveland.
Yeah, I'm not gonna put my chips towards Pittsburgh when I don't know what their offensive identity really is. Give
the ball to Najee Harris.
Is it give the ball to Najee Harris, or is it give the ball to DeJounte Johnson, or give it to what's his face?
Give it to Chase Claypool.
Chase Claypool.
Yeah. I mean, it's either hand the ball off to Najee Harris or
farewell tour. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that win last week for Cleveland was really big to go in and win against Broncos. Aren't great, but they're not a bottom feeder by any means. They'll probably finish with a competitive win-loss record. To go in there with a backup running back, a backup, quarterbacks, and to win that game, I think is a good boost of momentum for a team that had lost really close games to Kansas City when we, still thought they were one of the best teams, and that heartbreaker to LA. So to get a win like that when it seems like the odds were stacked against them, I think could be a nice little boost that they could carry on into a game like this.
Yeah, I'm going with Cleveland as well, just because Chubb and Hunt are coming back, I believe.
Hunt's not coming back. Hunt's on the IR. But Chubb is back.
That's right, because he's on 2 of my teams. I'm surprised I didn't remember that. Yeah.
But I mean, just think about, go back 10 years and show somebody this clip of us both being like, yeah, Cleveland over Pittsburgh. Yeah, for sure. That'll be really good, because
it's a crazy league that we're in now.
Ben Roethlisberger, I think, had the most wins than any Cleveland quarterback in the Cleveland Stadium for the last decade. But he is no longer that same Ben Roethlisberger, and I think Myles Garrett and is going to have a few sacks on the guy who doesn't really move back there.
There's going to be a few Pittsburgh fans in the stands that sure. When they lose this game, they're going to be like, oh, well, we still got six championships, right? Or
Yeah.
we still owned you for a decade and a half. There's going to be a lot of those. I said it from the beginning of the year. Pittsburgh is really just going to be like that high school quarterback wearing the Letterman jacket all the time, being like, "Oh, I remember when I was great."
Yeah.
Like that's Pittsburgh this entire season.
They've got some young talent, but it ain't their year. Not with Big Ben back there.
So we can talk about a similar game in that regard. Tennessee at Indianapolis, another divisional game. Indianapolis kind of having like a late surge in the latter half of this first half of the season.
Yeah. Second quarter surge.
Yeah, so I mean, this also reminds me of what you just said, where like if you looked at this game, 10, 15 years ago, where it's like, oh, the Titans look great against the Colts. This would have been the Peyton Manning Colts that were going against the Titans. So
I mean, 15 years ago, I think that's when they won the Super Bowl. So
yeah, so I mean, if I'm taking into account Tennessee, you're going with the Colts?
Yeah, I'm riding the Colts. I've been riding them the past few weeks. I like what they're doing. I am on record saying I think Carson Wentz is solid right now. I'm not going to say good.
I'm not a Carson Wentz hater by any means. I know why people, do hate on him.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't for an abnormal injury, he would be a former MVP. If anything, in my book, he is the MVP, right?
Yeah, he'd be MVP, Super Bowl MVP, Patriots killer.
He would have caught the Philly in the whole deal, right?
Yeah.
So, but Derrick Henry is coming to town, and I mean Derrick Henry,
Jonathan Taylor. Talking about top 5 running backs, I think they'll both be top 5 running backs at the end of the year. Henry's a lock, but Taylor's looking like
Taylor's good. I don't think he'll be a top 5 back at the end of the year.
All right, let's.
I'll throw that in on a season wide wager. But
let me see. I might try to get like another one out of you. Let me see where he's at right now.
Well, Derrick Henry is just going to stampede this defense. Derrick Henry could go up against the best defenses in this league and still put up 100 yards easily with at least a touchdown or 2.
Oh, okay, yeah, let's take that. Jonathan, top 5.
Why you had to do your calculations or something, or?
Well, I needed to see where he was right now.
Oh, okay.
And he's number 2.
And who's number 1?
Derrick Henry.
And that's why the Titans are going to win on Sunday.
Yeah. Dude, I mean, it's certainly the one thing.
It's going to be an interesting game, though, I think, yeah.
The one thing I will say is I have more faith in the Colts defense than the Titans defense. So that's why I believe in the Colts, and that's why I think the Colts can – I picked them to win the division in the preseason, so I'm still holding on to that. Even though
I think I may have as well. Yeah, it's kind of weird the trajectory that the Colts have been going through. This is basically going to be a battle of running backs as far as I can see it then, because, they both have, not tremendous quarterbacks under center. They just have, great running backs to work with, and they're going to go with that, as well as good receivers to work with, right? Michael Pittman could come out of nowhere and have a great game. They've been figuring
T.Y. Hilton might play after he came back. Played in one game and got injured again.
It feels so long.
He did good in that one game. He played 2 weeks ago. He came back from injury. He played. Then he got injured, and he missed another game. But I like what Carson Wentz is doing. I like what the Colts are doing. And obviously the Titans are hot as hell coming off that thrashing of the Chiefs. But a little more faith in the Colts defense, like I said. But it'll certainly be a very close game.
So we'll talk about Philadelphia at Detroit. Talked about this game a little bit earlier in the Fantasy 5. I think Jalen Hurts will have a pretty good game.
Yeah, he's got good games every week.
But he's going to have an especially good game against Detroit because, like I said, I mean, I love this Detroit team, and I hope this weekend is the first time they get a win, but I can't put my faith in Detroit until they get a win. You want to
say he'll have the best fantasy game of his season?
What's the best game that he's had so far?
28.76.
Against who?
Atlanta, week 1. He hasn't scored less than 20, so he's literally been from 20 point something to 28 every week.
I take that up. Yeah, I think Jalen Hurts is going to be one of the best performing quarterbacks of this weekend when against Detroit.
I'll give you some. I'll give you 28 points.
28 points. Okay. I'll definitely take that. And that works well for me because if Detroit locks him down, let's say, I'm going to tip my cap to Dan Campbell once again, just for being, I think, a great coaching option for Detroit. It's just they can't put the pieces together so far. I can't put my faith in Detroit yet. They got to get their first win first. But I hope they win, but Philadelphia will come in and they'll put on the clinic as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm actually going to go with Detroit here.
I'm not going to lie. I put your name over Philadelphia automatically.
I have
a winless team.
I have been high on Philadelphia, but I called the Jaguars' first win, and I don't know. I see Detroit plus 3.5, and I go, I don't know when the number is going to be this low ever again. So, like I said, I mean, they have to win a game. They have to. Like
they're just not a winless team. That's the thing. They are 0-7. Don't get me wrong, but they don't play like a winless team.
Well, they only play good against the good teams. If they played, they
good against bad
good
teams.
They play good against the Ravens and the Rams. Like these is when they give their good weeks, and they play against I don't know if they played Chicago or they play against these teams that they should be able to beat, and they don't. So at some point it's got to happen. Why not this week? Philly's got their issues, and Khalif Raymond, big game for Khalif Raymond. Before we move on to the next one, just somebody dropped in the chat asking if any changes need to be made to their roster. I'll spare you the details and won't read them out, but based on what you've got there going on, I think maybe you can I think receiver, where you might need a little bit of something. DJ Moore and Michael Pittman as the starters with Sterling Shepard and Allen Robinson on the bench. I think there's some potential there. But, I'm a fan of, if your team's doing good, try to hit up that 2-for-1 trade, take a starter and a depth piece and get like a really good player, or, trade one of your really good players for 2 like solid depth pieces, upgrade your, take a little bit of hit at one spot, but, upgrade your flex there. So I'd look for some, receivers that you might like, some buy low guys, maybe a Calvin Ridley, Brandon Cooks. I think Brandon Cooks, before maybe he goes off, or if he struggles this week against LA, those are some good maybe buy low candidates. But, you never know with trades. I love to throw trades around whenever I can. So I'm always
this year's been a weird one for me for fantasy, because usually I am big on doing trades every year.
Well, usually your league does stupid trades from what you've told me in the past. So
yes, but I would like to throw out there that last year in fantasy, midway through the season, I traded for Dalvin Cook, and he nearly saved my 1-5 team to go to the playoffs.
Yeah, so dude, your league was.
So trades can absolutely transform your chances, and I should explore trades with my 3 teams right now. I just don't, because every time I have, just nothing gets accepted, or
Yeah, I just traded for Cooper Kupp in our league, so.
Oh God.
So big move for me.
But one of my leagues, it's like I got Mike Evans, DeAndre Hopkins, and Tyreek Hill on the same team, I think. So
yeah.
What am I supposed to trade for at that point? So
Start shopping. You never know. But what do we got? A few more in the early window. Oh, I don't know. You can add some.
Yeah, we have Cincinnati at New York.
Well, let's group these games together, because it's the Rams versus the Texans and the Bengals versus the Jets. I think they're fairly similar. The fact that the Bengals are a 10-point favorite over anybody is a shock, but it is deserved.
10 years ago. Well, these were both bottom-feeding teams 10 years ago.
Well, maybe
not New York, but
no, 1 year ago. If you told me Cincinnati's going to be favored by 10 over anybody else, I'd say, I mean, what are they
playing? A college team, or
they're playing UConn? I mean, it is, but Cincinnati, even if Zach Wilson was there, I might be more inclined to take them to cover, and maybe Cincinnati fades a little bit. But with Mike White as a quarterback, there's no way I've talked about the Cincinnati defense is one of the, sneakiest good defenses in the league. And so they're going to win this one easily. And then LA over Houston. Same thing. Houston just back-to-back, Arizona, LA. That's just tough. And the Rams are just not a team that's going to lose to a bad team. The Lions threw everything they had at them. Onside kicks and fake punts in the first quarter, and it wasn't enough. So they're not going to get beat by the Texans.
All right, we got a twofer for that one. So that was pretty easy to predict there. We have next for the 1 o'clock games. Now we have New England at LA to play the Chargers. I don't like Herbert as a start in fantasy because I don't think he'll have particularly a fantastic game against a Belichick defense, even though this game is at home. Even though this game's at home and the Chargers are definitely the better team, they're only a 4-point favorite. That says a lot about this New England team.
Mm-hmm. Well, it also says a lot that the Chargers don't have a home field advantage.
Pretty much. LA is as far as I'm concerned, is still kind of a Rams is a Rams city, and it's going to be that way until the San Diego Chargers fully make their transition to the LA atmosphere. But LA's been wanting the Rams back for decades.
The Chargers might have to employ the silent count once again in their own home stadium, so that's always a tough scene. But I like the Pats in this one.
You like the Pats for an upset here?
Yeah, why not?
I can definitely see it happen, and that would bring the Pats to 500 on the year. New England is a fringe, wild card kind of team in the AFC. Obviously, that division is set with Buffalo. But being a wild card in that AFC East division, obviously the AFC West is going to be loaded with wild cards alone.
The AFC North.
And even the AFC South, if the Colts put it on.
Yeah, the Colts and Titans. So those wild cards are up for grabs. But the Patriots play close games. They've played close games against Tampa Bay and Dallas, who are really good teams. So I think that's the thing with Mac Jones is, and just the team and the offense is they kind of keep them in them. You're not going to see a lot of blowouts, if any, by the Patriots being on the receiving end of them. And like I said, I took nothing from them, just murdering the Jets. But you're looking at they murdering the Jets and the Chargers. I think 2 weeks ago they were coming off the bad loss to Baltimore. So two teams that are they've got the bye week. Maybe they've corrected it, but I like New England to go in there and pull off a bit of an upset. And I think they're a fairly competitive team.
I will disagree here and go Chargers, mainly for the fact that I don't think Herbert will have a good game, but I think he'll have an all right game. Austin Eckler will have a good game against this New England defense because a lot of the focus is going to be on Herbert, I think. Mac Jones, of course, will have a solid performance like he pretty much always does this season on his way to
50 yards or something.
Yeah, on his way to being the offensive rookie of the year.
Over Jamar Chase?
Well, see, I have the quarterback stigma in my head about the awards, so that'd be a topic for a different day.
He'll be the best rookie quarterback, but
for sure.
Yeah.
They kind of some people think they kind of messed up by not giving it to Justin Jefferson last year, so maybe that might weigh in for Jamar Chase this year to go with the LSU receiver that everybody wants to win. But regardless, I think this is the Chargers' game to win, considering every team in the AFC West has to keep their foot on the gas if Kansas City is going to keep fumbling like this.
Yeah.
So,
but I like New England with those points, so I think they'll keep it close for sure. Even if Chargers can pull it out.
It'll be a close game. I think Chargers kind of go away with it, but I wouldn't be surprised either way. We have Washington going on the road to Denver.
I thought you were going to go to the most interesting matchup of the week, but we'll get there in a sec. We'll talk football team versus Broncos because I'm back on the football team
to take down the Broncos. Until the Broncos win again, the football Washington's been very lackluster and just not meeting up to anybody's expectations. I think at this point, everyone is expecting them to be either 5-2 or 4-3. but 2-5 going to Denver.
Who they even lose to last week? I can't even remember. Oh, they played Green Bay last week, and so they lost that pretty handily.
But Denver, it's like they get Jerry Jeudy back, but they've lost 4 straight. They won all of their games against winless teams at the time. Washington coming in with Taylor Heineke, who's not playing particularly bad football. They just can't win as a team. And this defense is not performing like it should.
Defense is struggling. Antonio Gibson's a little banged up. Look out for Jarrett Patterson. Maybe come in do some damage if Gibson doesn't play. But I don't know. This is one of those games where I look at it and I go, yeah, I guess Washington. Why not? I used to be on them. Now, I was a big Washington bandwagon guy, but I've hopped off that. But I'll hitch myself to them for a temporary week here.
Much like the NFC with Carolina, Denver's on the same boat. Not in terms of talent or the team or personnel or anything like that, but in terms of performance and the record and what I see on paper. Starting out 3-0, everyone thought they were going to be good. They haven't won since.
Because they just lost they lost to the backup Browns. So
yeah, like if we put our chips towards Denver last week, thinking like, oh, this is going to be their win because they'll just beat battered down teams.
Yeah, I thought it was.
They can't even beat battered down teams now. So now you're going against Washington that is a little bit banged up from the injuries. I think Washington still comes to town. I don't give a crap about the altitude difference. Washington's going to come in, and they're going to shock Denver, and Denver's going to still have kind of this weird season.
Yeah, but I also wouldn't be surprised if Denver won by like 12 points because Washington just sucks. But
Washington will either win by a little, or they will. Sorry, my cat decided to jump on my lap. Washington will either win by a little, or they will lose by a lot.
Yeah,
that's pretty much how I see it.
Yeah, that's pretty much how their season is.
Let's go Jacksonville at
Seattle. That's the most interesting game of the week because I want to see if the Seahawks are complete dog shit or not.
Without Russell Wilson playing against the Jags, I don't know if I can really put all my faith towards Seattle, even against Jacksonville.
I'm picking Geno. I went against him for 2 weeks because I will not pick him against a.
So has this all just been because this is off of your you pick when the Seahawks win without Russell? You go against Geno when they lose both times, but then it's like
no. Well, so this was my thing. Pittsburgh and New Orleans are solid. New Orleans is pretty good. Pittsburgh is solid. Jacksonville is like a borderline NFL team. So that's why I think that Geno Smith can beat them. And that is if they really just – because he hasn't really necessarily lost these games. Obviously, he could have played a lot better against the Saints and, maybe scored a touchdown in the second half. That would have been nice. But he hasn't been, throwing a bunch of picks. He's just kind of just been not enough. And so I think the better team will still win, and that better team is still Seattle. The defense has been playing, good enough to make some stops. So we'll see. But, I can't pick Jacksonville.
Don't get me wrong. There is going to be some bias in this, but Seattle, how good of a game do you think Geno is going to have?
I don't think he'll have it'll probably be on par in what he's been doing. Throw 2 touchdowns, maybe throw a pick. I don't know, 225 yards, but I think they'll just,
I don't think he'll exceed 200.
Well, let me go see what he's done, but I'll take that.
Even against a Jacksonville defense, I don't think he'll exceed 200 because, if anything,
yeah, I'll take. Give me Geno over 200. Let me just put as much confidence in Geno Smith as I can, I guess. Last week I went Justin Fields over 200 yards. Why can't I get a good quarterback over 200 yards?
Going against Jacksonville, I want to talk about the defense for the Seahawks first. I mean, the Seahawks know how to get stops when it matters for some weird reason. They can't consistently get stops, but they will get stops when it matters.
They've played good. They've played good enough in the past 2 games if the offense was competent.
They've played good enough to have Geno basically screw up the game for him.
He's had the ball in his hands with a chance to win the game the past 3 games, and so I think
that against Jacksonville,
it might work.
Third time's the charm,
No, it'll be 4th because the end of the LA game that he came in for the injured Russ, he had a chance. So
he was playing well up until the very first pass of his game-winning drive.
Yeah, but
Geno's got to win at least one. I don't think Geno doesn't win a single. Let me rephrase that. Geno has to win at least once until Russell comes back. I don't think Geno was that bad that he can't get a win.
Well, this could be the last
that bad to get a win over Jacksonville.
No, there's like maybe 5 teams that I would pick the Seahawks over right now, and Jacksonville's one of them because they're not good.
Urban Meyer's first time coaching in the clink. I'm sure Seahawks fans need this to be a win for them to even have any sort of hope in the Seahawks right now.
The Jaguars and Lawrence and Urban Meyer still don't have a win on domestic soil. So until you win in the U.S.
So even more so, Seattle needs to win this game. And if they don't win this game, Pete Carroll is on a steaming hot seat.
No, not until Russ comes back.
If they lose this game to Jacksonville, then you have to fire Pete Carroll because absolutely has.
No,
it's gotten to that point. He is
you
old.
Don't have your you don't have your
he's
you
done.
don't have your starting quarterback, so you can't judge him.
Even when he has a starting quarterback, they can't win.
Yeah, but they beat
5, and this should be a 5-2 team.
They would beat Jacksonville.
Yes, they would beat Jacksonville, but they, all of my eyes goes towards Pete Carroll if they lose this game. But regardless,
it's not
Seattle.
happening, so.
I will pick Seattle to win this game alongside with you. We'll go to Tampa Bay at New Orleans. I think Tampa Bay is the number 1 team in the league, right from the last show. So I'm not picking anybody over Tampa Bay really, even if it's at home or away. I wouldn't pick the Cardinals over Tampa Bay if they played each other right now. But Tampa Bay, I will put all my chips towards until they have like either an embarrassing loss or a huge injury. They are number 1 as far as I'm concerned, and if they keep winning, they'll stay there.
Your level of confidence really makes me want to pick New Orleans.
But you can't.
But I can't because Jameis Winston. That's all it is.
New Orleans is 4-2.
No, I'm picking.
I'm picking like a 4-2 team.
No, I'm picking Tampa Bay. Jameis Winston cannot beat the Bucs. Picking Tampa Bay. If the rest of the Saints were, if the Saints had a more talented roster than the Bucs and they had Jameis Winston as a quarterback, then I could maybe talk myself into it. But the Bucs are just better all around. So I don't pick.
So maybe with Jameis, maybe hear me out. This is a theory of mine. Maybe when Jameis plays the Bucs, he throws for like 6 touchdowns, 7 touchdowns, 500 plus yards. Because if there's anything Jameis knows how to do when he was playing with Tampa Bay, it's
throw to the Buccaneers. Yeah,
it's to throw it to any non-Buccaneers player.
I mean, what are the odds he's
going to have an amazing game? I
mean, what are the odds that he thinks he's supposed to throw to the Buccaneers players on 4 plays? Like that could happen. And he throws 4 picks. I don't pick Jameis.
This could be like a very weird inverse thing that happens. This could be a moment in sports history, man. That's the amount of excitement I'll put towards Jameis. But Tampa Bay's going to come in and they're going to clean house.
Then pick the Saints. Don't talk all that talk if you're not going to back it up.
I'm going to throw my theory out there.
I'm also picking the Bucs.
But Tampa Bay would still win. Even if Jameis had that big of a game, Tampa Bay would still win.
Yeah, I'm picking the Bucs.
So we'll go to Dallas at Minnesota for Sunday Night Football. This is the last game we'll talk about before next show. I have to remind myself that because then I'll just start going into the Monday night game. So Dallas at Minnesota. This Dallas team is probably the sneakiest in the league right now, I would say, because no one is really talking about them other than, wouldn't you believe it, Dallas fans.
It's time to buy in, though. It's time to buy in. They're good.
It is. It's time to buy in. They're playing on prime time. The last time they played on prime time, they almost took down the Super Bowl champs. So going against a Vikings team that's, they play good football, but they don't win. Right? Yeah. They have great players. I
like Dallas.
They have a good coaching staff, but they're in a terrible division. And if this Minnesota team was like in the NFC East to compete with Dallas, then I'd think different of them. But Dallas coming to Minnesota, primetime, Dak Prescott. I say Dak Prescott, he's going to have like 4 touchdowns. I think Prescott's going to light it up.
I'm not doing any more quarterback wagers. I already hitched my wagon to Geno Smith. I can't do that again.
If anything, I haven't thrown my lock of the week out yet, but this game I consider a lock for Dallas to win, being 6-1.
This probably would have been mine.
I mean, I think Dallas is a better team than me than the Packers, if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah, I'll go Cleveland as my lock. But yeah, I mean, I like Dallas. I like what they've been doing, and I think they win this pretty handily. Like 1.5 point favorites. I like them to cover that. I mean, because it's hard to win.
That is like probably the safest bet of this entire season is Dallas and I see 2.5 on my screen, but I don't understand how they're not like a 4-point favorite.
It's because Minnesota's at home. So they're getting a little.
Even if Minnesota is in their own.
Oh yeah, I got 2.5. Yeah, I mean the teams get a few point boost just for being at home. That's just how it works out. But yeah, I like Dallas. I think Dallas will have a very good game.
They'll have a standout game. And let's hope Diggs keeps up his interception streak.
Yeah.
That's gonna be one of the top things I look for. Diggs, please get another pick. Everybody's going to be out trick-or-treating, and nobody's going to watch this game. So, if anything, Dallas is still going to be a sleeper team. I find that immensely interesting. Dallas is going to be a 6-1 team while nobody is going to really care on Halloween night.
Nah, people
win this game. But everybody in Texas is they'll be going wild.
Trayvon Diggs is going to go trick-or-treating for some interceptions. I've got a.
You better get another one.
I've got a wager that I want to throw out there and see if you like it. But I'm willing to bet that a game goes to overtime on Sunday.
What game do you think is going to overtime?
I'm not gonna bet on that game, but I'm just saying I think a game will go.
Well, there's got to be a game in mind that is going to
games.
That's very tough to predict. A game going to overtime.
Games have just been going to overtime lately. I could see it being like Philly, Detroit. I don't know about last week because there was not a lot of games.
There has been, I think.
Yeah, there was a big stretch. I don't know about last week since it was a really there weren't a lot of games. But I like you. I mean, I'm willing to take it.
I don't think there'll be an overtime game. I'll take it. Yeah. A lot of these games seem to be, easily decided as far as I'm concerned. If one game looks to be a potential overtime game, it would probably be Washington and Denver. The first thing that comes to mind.
Extra money on. I'm picking Philly, Detroit. You go to overtime, but
Philly, Detroit go to overtime. Detroit get an overtime win. That'd be good.
I mean, I feel like if they're going to win, it's going to be overtime. Maybe even get that tie that these crappy teams like to get. But that'll do it for us this week. Thank you for tuning in to our Week 8 NFL preview, talking some news, some fantasy football, some picks for the game. We will be back with you next week on Monday to recap what has gone down over the weekend. And remember to tune in to us on Mondays and Thursdays as you catch our NFL coverage throughout the year. Remember to follow Dash Sports on socials, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, as well as subscribe to the Dash Sports YouTube channel to keep up with the rest of the content that we've got going on with some Pac-12 football getting down toward the end of the season there. But that'll do it